Conversations are the new lead. It's not about lead generation anymore, because why do we generate data? When we do a direct response campaign, what's the goal? Our goal is to generate what? Data. What data? First name, last name, email address, and ideally their mobile phone number as well. Why? So that we can market to those people, by virtue, hope that they'll respond to that marketing, jump on the phone, so that we can do what? Have a conversation and try and sell them. The social environment provides us this shortcut to be able to provide utility, where we're actually providing and developing content that's helping people, that's provoking people to say, yeah, I've got that problem. Wow, that's really helpful. And when people say anything on a post, when people comment, when people direct message on any platform, what is that? That's the genesis of a conversation. And we didn't even have to generate their data. Yet, here's a statistic for you. 89% of businesses on Facebook don't respond to comments or direct messages. That's like someone walking into your showroom and saying, oh, I'm really interested in that TV, and you just turning around and walking away. 89%, Spencer.
Here in the Middle East, and in particularly here in Dubai, the real estate industry has been booming for a number of years as this city has grown exponentially in such a short period of time. There is an obsession with lead generation for all of the real estate brokers. Just to give you some perspective on it, there's at least 1,500 real estate brokerage businesses just here in Dubai, just in the city of Dubai. So
wow.
Just to give you an idea, and I could be lowballing the number just there, but they're all
wow.
obsessed with leads, and whether it's using the property portals to get their leads, and we have them over here like you have in Australia, whether it's running PPC campaigns or whatever it may be, it's leads. Nobody really gives two shits about brand. Now here's a statistic for you. On average, only 1% of the leads that are generated ever get converted. Now, the salespeople don't believe they need to learn how to be better salespeople because they've made a few sales before and they know what they're doing. So guess what? I've got some confidence. I know what I'm doing. And they also don't believe that they need to build a brand. What do you say to people that think and behave that way?
Look, I understand it's a very competitive market, but to me, the fastest way, and again, I'm going to perhaps contradict myself a little bit here. The fastest way to double any business is to be able to double the value of every sale, or double your conversion rate to the people that you're selling to. But in the real estate market, and this is a really good example, because right now I love, there's a few TV shows that I actually really enjoy, and one of them is called $1 Million Listing.
Yeah.
And when you look at Ryan Serhant, and he is the epitome of what I'd call someone who has integrated really good brand and really good salesmanship. But at the same time, with the advice of someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's also had the opportunity to build an incredibly powerful and potent brand. And so for me, the reason that most people don't go down the brand route is because it takes a long time. It takes longer. It is slower. It's a slower burn. But what they don't realize is, sooner or later, that brand builds a level of momentum, that builds a level of trust. And here's the thing that most people aren't aware of. It's called not the Pygmalion. It's the familiarity principle. What's it called, Paul? The mere exposure effect. Me, I should know this. The mere exposure effect. Now, you're familiar with the mere exposure effect?
No, tell me.
Okay, you will love this, and I'm sure your audience will love this as well, and every real estate agent in the world should be listening to this right now. The mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomena whereby people tend to develop a preference for things once they become familiar with them. It's also called the familiarity principle. Now, how this translates to a commercial environment, and you will know this from yourself, back in 2005, the average consumer needed to be exposed to a business, a product, a service, or a brand on average 5.4 times in order for something to be triggered within them to go, you know what? I actually feel like I should reach out and have a conversation now. Not reach out and buy, not reach out and hand over my credit card number, just reach out and have a conversation. In 2012, it was 12.8 exposures. And in 2019, 2020, they predicted it was as many as 20 exposures were required to build that same level of familiarity and trust. And let me ask you this question, Spencer, do you have to see things sometimes a few times before you feel comfortable to reach out and have a conversation with someone?
All day long.
And so this is what we know. So there's two types of sentiment here, because when you look at Facebook advertising or PPC advertising, how many times are you seeing ads every single day where you see them and you go, F me, if I see this ad one more time, I'm going to throw my computer out the window, or I'm sick of seeing this ad. Do you ever have that experience?
Almost daily.
Every day, right? Whereas what we've got to understand, we have moved predominantly from a traditional media environment, and traditional media has been apparent for the last 80 years. Traditional media was based on a concept called advertising and direct response. Okay, whereby, you know, the thing that funded all of these newspapers and TVs and everything, TV channels and everything else, everything that funded TV channels, everything that has funded media for the last 100 plus years has been advertising. And the only way that advertising works is if that advertising produces some form of a direct response. So there's only very few people in the traditional marketing or traditional media business who have the budgets, such as the Nikes and the McDonald's and everything else, to be able to brand their business to a point where they become the first choice. And you and I are like Google, okay? And in the absence of Google, we had the human brain. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little experiment with you where I'm going to treat you like Google. I'm going to type a keyword into your brain, okay? And you're going to tell me the number one response, okay? So when you type a search term into Google, Google goes back to its referential index. It comes back and goes, here's the number one response based on the keyword that you've typed in there. Soft drink.
Coke.
Fast food.
KFC.
There you go. And they're two very large companies who over a period of decades have been able to invest enormous amounts of money to capture top of mind space, the number one space in your brain right now. And that is incredibly valuable. But most people in traditional advertising didn't have the budgets to do that, so they engaged in what most people in traditional advertising did, which is what's called direct response, which is discount, on sale, buy my stuff now, respond now, call now, be in the first 15. And in the traditional marketing environment, that culture was set very early on. But then along comes this thing called social media. It's not traditional media, it's social media. And the key word here being social. Now, if you're being marketed to in a networking event, is that normal? If someone comes up to you in a networking event and tries to sell you, is that normal? Are you going to get offended?
Yeah, I get offended. It happens a lot, but I get offended.
But most people would know that if they go to a networking event, someone's going to try and get their card and try and sell them. So if you're offended, then maybe you shouldn't go to a networking event, Spencer, because it's pretty obvious that that's why people go to networking events, so that they can sell people. Okay,
well, to me, it's two different things here. There's prospecting and networking. So for me, networking events are about building a network, but people go there and they've got their business cards out. It drives me bloody mad, but yes.
Okay, let me ask a better question. You know if you go to a networking event, you're going to get marketed to.
100%.
Okay, but let's say you have a birthday party and you invite 50 of your best friends and everyone turns up with gifts, but one person doesn't turn up with gifts. They turn up wearing a sandwich board that says, buy my stuff now, and a hand and a fistful of brochures, and they start handing those brochures out to every single person at your birthday party, trying to get them to give them their details so that they could follow up and have a call with them next week. Now, would that be considered socially appropriate?
No, hell no.
No, because it's a social occasion. A networking event is a commercial occasion. A party is a social occasion. And see, what we've got right now is we've got networkers showing up to birthday parties and polarizing the parties that they walk into. And this is what we've got to understand. Social media isn't a traditional environment. And so if you're using direct response, which 95% of people are, if not more, they're using direct response content, in a social environment, and they're wondering why, they're only getting converting one lead out of every 100. Whereas if you start treating the environment with the respect that is due, it's a social environment. And so what do we do when we're at birthday parties? We talk to people, right? We have conversations. And in most cases, those conversations around, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm doing this. Yeah, what's been going on? Oh, I had this problem. Oh, really? Tell me about the problem. And what do we end up doing as collaborative human beings? We often try and talk and share our problems and solve each other's problems. And so to me, we've got to move away from the traditional direct response psychology. And don't get me wrong, I was a direct response. I was a copywriter, okay, before I was anything else, from a marketing and sales perspective. But in the social environment, that is a turn-off. That is repulsive. What is a turn-on, what is attractive in the social environment is a utility perspective, or what we refer to as utility marketing, and understanding that if we can start conversations, and if there's one thing I'd want people to take from this part of the conversations, it's this. Conversations are the new lead. It's not about lead generation anymore, because why do we generate data? When we do a direct response campaign, what's the goal? Our goal is to generate what? Data. What data? First name, last name, email address, and ideally their mobile phone number as well. Why? So that we can market to those people, by virtue, hope that they'll respond to that marketing, jump on the phone, so that we can do what? Have a conversation and try and sell them. The social environment provides us this shortcut to be able to provide utility where we're actually providing and developing content that's helping people, that's provoking people to say, yeah, I've got that problem. Wow, that's really helpful. And when people say anything on a post, when people comment, when people direct message on any platform, what is that? That's the genesis of a conversation. And we didn't even have to generate their data. Yet, here's a statistic for you. 89% of businesses on Facebook don't respond to comments or direct messages. That's like someone walking into your showroom and saying, oh, I'm really interested in that TV, and you just turning around and walking away. 89%, Spencer. Everybody's going for the quick win. Everybody's trying to sleep with the hot chick or the hot guy on the first night, rather than going, hey, this is a social environment. Let's build a relationship. How do we build relationships? By sharing, by solving people's problems. You know, the two most powerful pieces of content that I create or that I document is my life and me documenting my life fucking either coming together or falling apart. Because what do people do? They go, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, I can relate to going through a divorce. I can relate to having ADHD. I can relate to addiction. I can relate to dyslexia. I can relate to having a challenge as a parent. And then they can also go, wow, you helped me solve a problem. So I can relate to you and you solve my problems. Hey, there's something about you that I really like. Let me comment. That is the genesis of a conversation. And that's how every single relationship in history has started, through a conversation. And that is what most people, especially in the traditional sales-orientated world, are missing. They're going for the lead and they're not going for the relationship. And so for me, the way that we distinguish between the two is by building a brand, you're building relationships. You're building a relationship, not just with a market, but with a key word and a key term and phrase. You know, because if you're a real estate agent, your number one goal should be when someone says the word real estate, they mention your name. But by just focusing on McDonald's didn't focus just on generating leads. Okay, KFC didn't focus just on generating leads. Coca-Cola, these companies are not they don't even have databases for the most part. They are companies that have built brands by promoting and creating customer experiences, and by virtue of exposure. You know, whether it be Spencer, real estate agent, Spencer, real estate agent, Spencer, helpful real estate agent, Spencer, relatable real estate agent, Spencer, real estate, Spencer, real estate. So 2 months from now, someone says, oh, I'm looking for a real estate agent. I go, you know what? You should speak to Spencer. I don't know why, but you know, he keeps popping up my feed. He's really helpful. I can really relate to the guy. Go and check him out. Versus, oh no, let me forward you this ad that I keep seeing that annoys the shit out of me. That's not going to happen.
If you enjoyed this episode, click over there where you'll see more episodes. If you click that way, though, you'll be able to subscribe to the show. And hey, who wouldn't want to get more episodes just like this? Go on, give it a click.